to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
You know, a lot of people don't realize it, but John Combest actually wrote those lyrics for our intro right there. And it's a little sort of tongue-in-cheek joke aimed at Brad, because when he says, when the singers say lose control, he's aiming that at Brad wearing his Depends. Isn't that what it is, John? I'm going to lose control?
I think they just provide a little bit more comfort. I've always loved how the women's version of those are called Poise. You know? I don't know if you've seen those at the store, Brad. I know you spend a lot of time in the adult diaper section, but I like how the women's ones are called Poise.
You've seen me there. Okay, that's right. Okay, John, yesterday, by the way, your buddy Will Scharf, do you know him personally? Do you know him personally?
I think that Will wouldn't be, angry at me if I said that, yeah, we communicate quite a bit.
Okay. He's becoming a rock star with all these executive order signings. Did you see him by any chance yesterday?
Was yesterday paper straws?
Yeah. Did you see his intro to Trump signing the paper straws?
I didn't hear it.
Oh my God. He goes on this, and I'm thinking to myself, is this guy good or what? I heard it in the car, and I thought to myself, he's got to be reading that off a script. And then this morning I watched the actual video. It's off the top of his head. Now I don't have it to play. But man, he's a sharp dude. Hold on a minute. Let me cough.
And Brad, let's point out too that so yesterday when I saw the thing about paper straws, I heard somebody say on Twitter, or I read somebody say on Twitter, what a perfect description of the situation. Now, I didn't watch the video, but I was like, yeah, that's Will. And the one thing I'd quibble with you, Brad, is that Will is not becoming a rock star. Will has been a rock star.
Well, but he's got, there's one of these things. I kid about this all the time. In life, you come to forks in the road, okay? Do you go left? Do you go right? You pick a path, and sometimes you go, oh my God, I can't believe I made this right decision. Or you go the other way and you go, oh my God, did I screw up? Can I go back? No, you can't go back. It's a fork in the road. There's no turning back, okay? Don't you think that him losing to Andrew Bailey might have been a blessing in disguise?
Absolutely, yeah. And, Scott Fawn and I talked about it on primary night at the Missouri Times election night in Missouri when we had that in Jeff City. It's certainly a blessing for Will Scharf. Brad, it kind of reminds me of Michael Jordan was a great high school basketball and baseball player. And he chose to play basketball. Now, you remember he went back for a year, played for the Birmingham Barons baseball, tried it out a little bit. But not going on, you talk about a fork in the road, deciding to not play baseball and instead take your fate and go play basketball instead. And remember, Michael Jordan famously was cut from his freshman basketball team.
Well, I had that fork in the road. I had a chance to go to Washington University and study electrical engineering, but I said, no, I'm going to SIU to study radio, TV, journalism. Boy, what a mistake that was, right, John?
I don't think so at all, Brad. I think you've had quite a wonderful career that's touched a lot of people, and not touched in the bad kind of way. Not a bad touch, Brad. But, as native St. Louis and Yogi Berra said, if you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Okay, John just said something, not a bad situation. What was that you said again about me again? It's not bad? What was it?
Oh, I don't know. I said it's maybe not a bad touch. I forgot exactly what I said, Brad.
Okay. We're starting a new segment of the show, and we won't do it all the time, but we're going to do this in C Block today, which will be like from 7:40 on. It's WWJD, not what would Jesus do, what would John do, where I'm going to give him hypothetical situations, and since he is the master, he wrote a book about this, about, online trolling and stuff like that, plus he was a comms guy for a Fortune 100 company for a number of years. He knows sticky wickets and how to get out of them, or at least to navigate through them. Would I be safe to say that, John?
Yeah, and I love the phrase sticky wicket. We have a listener to the show who hates the phrase, so let's use it all the time, Brett.
You mean sticky wickets? That listener doesn't like sticky wickets?
No, I think she doesn't like sticky wickets.
Oh, I thought you were talking about sticky wickets. Okay.
She's not who you think. She's someone I used to work with, actually.
Okay, first off, I have to play these two because I pulled these this morning. Okay, here's number one. You ready?
I'm ready.
On occasion, they break, they explode. If something's hot, they don't last very long, like a matter of minutes, sometimes a matter of seconds. It's a ridiculous situation. So,
Have you ever had a straw explode on you, John?
Wow, I thought that was a Yelp review from your high school girlfriend. I thought that was your dating profile review.
I about
drove Hazelwood High School girls.
I about drove off the road when I'm listening to him yesterday. They pulled up this up live. Can't remember what station I was listening to, and they pulled up us live. And then just when I thought couldn't get any better, here comes the second one. You ready?
I'm ready.
and I don't think that plastic's going to affect a shark very much as they're munching their way through the ocean.
As they're munching their way through the ocean.
Now, can you imagine? Can you imagine the Joe Bidens of the world ever having like a real conversation like that?
But see, once again, you and I talk about this. I know there are Trump haters out there. Okay, I get it, and I think some of the stuff he does is really stupid. Remember, I'm Brad. I'm the guy that's like the libertarian kind of guy. I think the Republicans and the Democrats are screwed up. Okay, because of the fact that I always give this analogy. They're out there slugging it out on the floor in the House Senate and giving these impassioned speeches. And, the Democrats don't know what they're doing and the Republicans don't know what they're doing. They're throwing mud back and forth. And then flash to one of the restaurants in Washington, D.C. that night, and the Democrats are slapping the Republicans on the back. Boy, you did a great job today. You really eviscerated me, and I loved every minute of it. Am I right, John? Come on. Be honest.
I love the fact that you're no longer giving free advertising to CJ Muggs. I like that, Brad. You're drawing a line in the sand. And I got to draw a line in the sand because if we don't start on the top three, we're never going to get to them.
Well, what's more important right now? The top three are.
And I don't think that plastic's going to affect a shark very much as they're munching their way through the ocean.
Okay, that guy is John Combest. We bring in this guy every morning. What's your name again, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what do you do?
We're on our way to the number one.
He counts them down, and we start off with.
In third place.
Continuing good old-fashioned gumshoe journalism. We've talked about it with St. Louis Development Corporation. We've had reporters from the Post-Dispatch going out, literally knocking on doors, knocking on empty storefronts to figure out what the heck is going on with these grants. This is a two-part number three this morning, Brad, because on Monday, I neglected to link to or even mention on this show a piece in the Post-Dispatch by Austin Hughley and another reporter named, I believe his name is pronounced Nassim Binshabane. If I got the last name wrong, my apologies. And they went through and they said the question was, how bad are problems in St. Louis grant program for the North Side? Here's what we found. Brad, they did another round of going out and looking at some of these phantom businesses, some of these ghost businesses that don't even exist. Like a daycare center that's on an empty lot. Those type of stories that they did in the first round, they went back and dug deeper. And there's more stories like that. Now, the second part of that today, Brad, is that there's a follow-up piece in the Post-Dispatch by Austin Hughley. And the headline is, Under Pressure, St. Louis reevaluating dozens of North Side grants. So Austin went to the transparency portal where you can go in and you can see where these grants are and what the status of it is. And a number of them have been flipped that were shown months ago to being in line for an award. Now their status reads either non-viable or to be determined. So it looks like, Brad, at least on the surface, that St. Louis Development Corporation seemed to realize they had a big problem. They seemed to realize on Monday that the Post-Dispatch is not going to give up on this story and is in fact continuing to dig deeper. And by yesterday was at least going in and changing status of some of the most egregious cases to show that no, those projects aren't viable. No, they're not realistic. And no, they're not in line for money. So maybe this is a case, Brad, of better late than never.
So this is interesting because of the fact that this shows what investigative journalism can do. And I always get this confused. The Fourth Estate, isn't that what it is? The journalism?
It's the Fourth Estate, yeah.
Fourth Estate, okay. This is why a lack of local reporters is a bad thing for our society. John, I think you'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. I would say the decline of a number of people looking at local governments. Local government is the best example. And I don't mean to step on you here, Brad, but just as an example, I would say when I started doing my website in 2001, the Capitol Bureau in Missouri probably had at least 10 reporters who were there every day. And at the end of the session would probably have 15 or 20 reporters. And now you'll get a handful of stragglers in the Missouri Capitol, and that's all.
Believe there still is. Last time I checked was a couple years ago. There is a special parking lot. You don't go to Jefferson City that much. I do. There's a special parking lot that's actually in front of the Supreme Court building. Hold on a minute. I don't cough all night or all morning, and I get on the air with you. I think I'm allergic to you, John.
You are.
Anyway, there's a special parking lot, media parking lot, which is right across the street from the Missouri Supreme Court building and right in front of the Capitol building, which is for working press. And if you used to drive there back in the day, the lot was always full during session. Now you drive there, and there's like one or two cars. So what does that tell you, right, John?
It tells you that that's where you should park when you go to Jeff City.
Working press. Okay, we ready for two?
We sure are.
Up a notch to number 2.
You mentioned Will Scharf earlier, and the gentleman who defeated him in the Republican primary back in August, he's no slouch either. Andrew Bailey. He filed suit yesterday against a purveyor of a top West County, South City, fill the blank in, Brad, St. Charles County beverage among our beloved white women. Who did he sue yesterday, Brad?
White Claw?
No, good guess. I would have accepted White Claw or Lululemon, but today I would not have accepted Lane Bryant or Torrid, that's for sure. Here's what we'll go with, though, Brad. Starbucks. AG Andrew Bailey points to a number of hiring and promotion practices at Starbucks that he says discriminates against white people and discriminate against white men. He pointed to Starbucks' own promotion program. And by promotion, I don't mean sales. I mean internal employee advancement, saying that, here's his quote, whether described as benign discrimination or affirmative action, the racial quota is nonetheless a creator of castes, a two-edged sword that must demean one in order to prefer another. So he filed the suit here in Missouri, Brad. Now, I have two pieces up today. There's one from a human named Evie Lewis, who is sponsored by the River City Journalism Fund. He or she, I think the pronouns are she, is sponsored by River City Journalism Fund and is a St. Louis Public Radio State House intern. That's who Evie Lewis is. And then I would also suggest, if you would like a more balanced or even slightly conservative view, go to the Fox News story today, which has a little bit more detail, a little bit more substance from Andrew Bailey, as opposed to the St. Louis Public Radio piece, as you might imagine. So Andrew Bailey's point, look, this hurts Missouri consumers because you're paying more for coffee. You got to wait in line when employees are hired because, they pretend to be something that they're not, rather than just hiring people based on merit. John,
a couple years ago, I was trying to make some extra cash. The radio business doesn't pay that well. And I applied for the job as a barista at Starbucks, okay? And on the application, they ask, how many tattoos do you have? How many piercings do you have? And what color is your real hair? And I put 00, and my color of my hair is the color of my hair. And the guy looked at me and goes, I'm sorry, we can't hire you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's generally accepted no matter where you go that the more liberal the coffee house is, you're going to get better coffee. Like, I don't think a woman, that has a waist and has her natural hair color past her shoulders, I don't think she's going to make you a good skinny vanilla latte.
Really?
But if you go to somebody that's got purple hair and a guy that has his pronouns on his name tag, you're probably going to get a pretty good cup of coffee,
But I even told him I would put my pronouns of dude and dudeness on my name tag, and he wasn't impressed with that at all. Okay, time for number one. You didn't think we were going to get them all in time. Here we go. Number one.
The number one.
Columbia, Missouri. A show called A Columbia Morning on KFRU. They had a gentleman who leads the Missouri Restaurant Association. Boy, Brad, we've been talking about restaurants a lot lately. I'll do the boring stuff first. He was there to talk about a number of topics, but he touched on Missouri's minimum wage increase / sick leave proposition that was passed by voters and goes into effect this year. So the gentleman's argument, and his name is Buddy Lahl, Lahl. His argument is, look, we don't have a problem with the minimum wage thing. It's kind of expected. Most restaurants pay people above the minimum wage anyway, so we don't have a big problem with that. But we have a big problem with sick leave because under the law today, you don't even have to say who the sick leave is for. So they being Missouri Restaurant Association, is looking for a legislative fix that tightens it up a little bit, Brad, that makes sure that an employee has to say, look, I am the one that is sick, not my brother or my uncle or my nephew. And their qualm here is that for so many businesses, having this sick leave, even with the threshold that it's at now, Brad, even at the threshold of the size of the business, it's still not viable for restaurants in the state of Missouri. And maybe if you have something to say about that, we could get back to that in a minute. But I want to make sure that we point out the hottest topic, which is these immigration raids. Now, Mr. Lahl says he's only familiar with two, and they're the ones that we've talked about before, Brad. They're the one that was in O'Fallon, Missouri, and then Liberty, Missouri, which is over on the Kansas City side. And this gentleman said, I'm reading between the lines here, Brad. He said it more diplomatically than I will right now. But his point to members of the Restaurant Association is, get your paperwork in order. And if you think there might be some folks in your kitchen who are a little bit less than legal, just double check the paperwork now. Because even though the official line is ICE is only concerned with folks who are here who have committed previous crimes besides being illegal, even though that's the line now, it could change and we could have more widespread raids. So his exact words, Brad, were get your house in order. But I think he means maybe sniff around the kitchen a little bit and make sure that the people that claim they have, a particular visa actually have that visa.
Okay, question. And you brought up something,
Yes.
and if you say you knew I was going to ask this. Okay, the way the law is written right now, let's say I work at McDonald's, okay, and my son lives with me, and my son is sick, but I'm not sick, so I can call in McDonald's and say I can't come in today because of sickness. They have to say, okay.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. And I believe what this gentleman was saying was that under the law now, under the new law, you don't have to say what the sickness is. So you don't have to say, hey, I have the flu. Even if it's your nephew and he skinned his knee, you still get 1 hour of paid sick leave for every 30 hours work, but you don't have to say whether you're sick or what the supposed injury is.
So it could be a family member. I could say, like you just said, my son skinned his knee, and they'd say, okay, fine. I have to stay home and nurse his knee, right? Isn't that what they're essentially saying?
Well, I think you would just say, hey, I'm taking my sick leave. You don't say it's for me. You don't say I got the flu. You're saying I have accrued this many sick leave hours. I'm using them on Friday.
The law of unintended consequences once again rears its ugly head, right? We put this crazy, weird language in these constitutional amendments, state of Missouri, and what do we get? All sorts of crazy stuff, right? They're still fighting out in court about the 3% for the counties and the municipalities. Aren't I correct in that? Aren't they still fighting that battle?
You mean for marijuana?
Yeah, for marijuana.
Yeah, I believe that's still in the courts.
Ah, man. Okay.
I wasn't listening, Brad, because I was taking I take my sick leave in like 30-second increments. So I was off for that 30 seconds. Sorry.
Okay, John. It's gonna be one of those mornings, I can tell. Okay, and it's always good.